Bill Barnwell, writer at ESPN, came out with a piece today where he ranked every head coaching hire since 2021. So the last 5 years, there have been 37 hirings, 1 to 37. He ranked them. You'll hate that he put Dan Campbell number 1, but you got to respect the results. That was a hire that drew some ire.
Yeah.
His press conference, he's talking about eating kneecaps. There were major questions. And he has subsequently, in 5 seasons, turned in some pretty good work. They've won 57% of their games, 48-36-1. They've become a power in the NFC. This is after they went 14-33-1 under Matt Patricia and the interim coach, Darrell Bevell, before he got there.
Listen, I think he's been exposed since his coordinators have gone, and you kind of get what this is. But still, the results have been outstanding for a guy that turned that program around. He was absolutely part of it.
Number 2 on this list, as far as hirings, again, ranking all 37 of the coaches to get jobs last 5 off seasons, Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles. I would have had him a little lower down the board, but he's obviously leaning heavily into success, which is the whole point, so I get it. This is 5 years of Nick Sirianni now, same cycle as Dan Campbell. He lists him as being 59-26, winning 69% of his games. Good Lord.
Yeah.
He said Sirianni was the most difficult coach to rank on this entire list. His resume is comfortably the best of any coach over the past 5 years. Took over a 4-11-1 team and immediately coached it to the playoffs. But he goes on to point out what is very obvious, which is this seems like a Howie Roseman creation. And Nick Sirianni, while he's had a ton of success, is probably a great beneficiary of one of the best rosters in the league.
I think that's true for both the top 2 guys, frankly. But Sirianni especially, he's driving the Ferrari, but you still have to drive it. I mean, ask Phil Jackson about how tough it is, right? I mean, before he gets to the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, it's infighting. The next year, it's a championship. It ain't that easy. And Sirianni's, the record speaks for itself.
So if you're wondering, then what about the guys that are in the Super Bowl this year? Mike McDonald, 2 years in, 24-10 in 34 games. He comes in at number 3 on this list after 2 seasons. He's won 71% of the games that he has coached in. He took over a team that was middling and felt somewhat rudderless. Like, it was very Steelers-ish in a sense.
Northwest Steelers.
They were not on the verge or on the precipice of anything important or good, but they were never bad. He got them over the hump. He made them a legit contender. And it's not just him. John Schneider's done an amazing job, their general manager. I saw a stat, by the way, which is incredible. We should talk about this more next week when we lean into the Super Bowl coverage. But you guys know that John Schneider is the only GM ever to take 2 teams as a general manager to the Super Bowl that have 0 players on the roster that were the same as the other team. 0. So, like, 2 different Super Bowl teams in an organization for him where the Seahawks don't have any crossover at all. No one other GM has ever done that.
Oh, so in other words, there's nobody left from 2013 or 2014 when they're in the Super Bowl.
Correct.
No one's ever done that before?
Not another GM.
That's insane
Which
to me.
actually makes sense if you think about it.
Because you got your window, you got your era, et cetera.
Yes. It's unprecedented.
I
think he slept on. By the way, he was here. He got fired when Marty got fired.
Isn't that fun that he was here?
Dan Snyder said, this guy's not good enough, and then he went on to become one of the great execs in the league. But Mike McDonald ranks 3 on this list. And then Mike Vrabel, the other of the coaches in the Super Bowl, only 1 season since his hiring last year, 14-3 record, 824 win percentage this year with obviously a pretty easy schedule. Everybody wants to point that out, and I will acknowledge that. But Vrabel, who's my coach of the year, number 4 overall. I think you could even have him 3rd.
You could, but it's only
second.
a season. Yeah, I think you do it for a couple of years, and then you slide up.
Rounding out the top 5, this is the best coaching hires. There have been 37 of them over 5 years. Bill Barnwell of ESPN ranked all 37. DeMeco Ryans of the Texans. DeMeco Ryans, 3 years in, is 32-19, a 628 win percentage with Houston. What I love about having him in the top 5, people sleep on the revolving door of a coaching job that was.
They were worse off than anybody else.
There's like answers to trivia questions. Like, who is that guy again? What was his name? David Culley. And I mean, but it was like 1 year stopgap, Lovie Smith, like unserious searches. And then they land on DeMeco Ryans. And after 3 years and a 628 win percentage, they've got one of the most respected coaches in the league. Interestingly, I'm a huge proponent of, offensive-minded guys. Campbell doesn't call plays, is an offensive former player. Sirianni's an offensive coach, but doesn't call plays either. McDonald's defense, Vrabel's defense, Ryan's defense. So there's not like a single McVay, Shanahan-esque OC type. in the top 5 for Bill Barnwell.
Which is really interesting because it's basically, again, what is this league at the end of the day? Besides, it's a bunch of billionaires getting together and having some contests. But when you actually get to the football field, it's a league of countering the trend. So the trend was what? Were you 33, handsome with a flat top from the Shanahan coaching tree, and you ran offense? We need somebody to stop that, and that kind of became the new paradigm to a degree. It's the McDonald's is the new fad. There'll be another fad in a few years that we'll be adjusting to. But I think it's happening in real time where we need excellent defense to stop these 52-48 games.
So here's why I think this is so compelling, though. Dan Quinn came in really high on this list. In a world where there have been 37 hirings of head coaches over 5 years, and they all got ranked, Dan Quinn came in 10th for Bill Barnwell. It's been 2 seasons. One was as good as it possibly could be imagined or dreamed up. And the second was the antithesis of that, an absolute inverse, just a disaster. And not surprisingly, by the way, the record is 17-17, a 500 record. With a win in there, against backups, could easily be 16-18 sub 500, but it doesn't matter. 500 record. But he points out what a difference a year makes. 12 months ago, Quinn was fresh off a trip to the NFC Championship game, having won as many playoff games in his first season with the Commanders as the franchise had claimed over the prior 30 years. He references how fantastic Daniel was and the insulation of the quarterback and what they did to develop him. He says things have changed. Daniel struggled through an injury-prone 2025. Quinn's defense completely collapsed in year 2. But when you've got him at 10, Danny, it makes you think, are we too hard on where we are with Dan Quinn through 2 years? Last year was a debacle, and we live in a world that is about recency. But this is a guy diving into the numbers who is one of the sharpest football writers in America, who is saying 37 coaches have been hired over this period. Only 9 of those hirings have been better than this one based on the results so far. Now, I picked some nits here because right behind him is Liam Cohen. I know it's only been 1 year, 13-4, but he basically is Dan Quinn without this year of falling off yet. I don't know how you could put him behind Dan Quinn. You say, well, it's only 1 season. Well, it's only 2 for Quinn, and the second one was a disaster. So, I would have Liam Cohen above him. Are there other guys I would? The other guys behind him in the rankings are Todd Bowles, Mike McDaniel, Robert Saleh, Doug Peterson. None of them deserve to be over Dan Quinn.
Well, so that's where I was going, is the people he's a couple spots ahead of have been removed from their gigs.
Fired and, not successful.
So it's you go down, 13 fired, 14 fired, 15 fired, 16 still going.
Who was 16?
Shane Steichen, who's been 500. Bad luck, I think, for Steichen.
Good trajectory this year.
25 and 26, year. And,
they have a bad year next year, he's gone.
Probably, yeah, but who's been more hamstrung with quarterback than that guy? But anyway, I digress. But, then it's Dable fired and Kellen Moore 1 year of 6-11. So it's, at first you go, is this just top coaches hired in the last 5 years in the NFC East for cities named Washington? Because there's no way. But then when you start to look at it, you go, okay, I guess I kind of get it. I probably have them a couple spots lower, just given how bad this year was. But it's not that crazy.
Ahead of him.
Yeah.
That's going to be the one gripe that I'm going to have with this, is that Liam Cohen at 13-4 had a better record in his first year than did Dan Quinn. Now, Liam Cohen did not get to the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game, which Quinn got to an NFC Championship game, but he also didn't get to play a, fairly limited NFC South champion and a super banged up Detroit team. I don't want to take away from Washington because those were 2 signature offensive road wins and their quarterback played unbelievable in those games. But I would say Jacksonville had a slightly harder path if they were going to get there anyway. But the other thing is, and I guess this should be the takeaway from this, because my first thought was, what? Dan Quinn can't be a top 10 hire. Maybe it just doesn't mean as much as it sounds like it should. There's so many dudes that have been hired and fired already. There were so many bad hirings. Just looking at just the 2022 cycle, which was smack dab in the middle of this window, Dable with the Giants, Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos was a joke. McDaniels with the Raiders went terribly. The Lovie Smith Texans era was a joke. Doug Peterson with the Jaguars went badly. Eberflus with the Bears was a joke. Dennis Allen with the Saints was very meh and then ended. There are 2 guys left out of 10 that year. They had the same number. It was the record. 2022 and this year, 10 openings. There are only 2 guys, Kevin O'Connell and a survivor in Todd Bowles in a bad division. Those are the 2 guys left from that entire cycle. So you could kind of see how you get Just by not getting fired, you get pushed up this board.
20 of the final 27 guys have already been fired since, that Quinn ranks ahead of. So I get it. It's not the honor at first you think it is.
But here's what I do want to ask people, because I think you're right about that. It feels like, wow, you're one of the 10 best hires of the last 5 years. That's pretty amazing. And it's like, you're one of the 13 guys that still have a job is another way to look at it.
Yeah.
Kind of. But is anybody willing to say that Quinn's 2 years in totality should be viewed more favorably than they are? It does feel like he is, if we're going to use presidential phrases, the popularity,
the approval rating,
or how you currently poll or whatever. It feels like it's very low. His approval rating right now is very low. Things aren't great when you turn on the news with Dan Quinn, right? Is someone willing to argue that over 2 years, this has actually been a much better hire and gone a lot better than people want to admit?